What's up, Cage Side Maniacs? Sean here on a Sunday. Just when we thought we were out, pulls us back in. Sean Reuter at S1Rude on Twitter. Usually found on CagesideSeats.com, the best damn pro wrestling community on the internet. And the topic du jour remains CM Punk. If I got a couple of minutes off from writing his name, when Vince McMahon actually talked about like two other things other than Punk when he talked to Stone Cold last week. But he's back, and he is not a pro wrestler anymore. He's a mixed martial artist, and we'll see how that goes. Yeah, I don't know how to get away from talking about it or thinking about it. It's the man knows how to stay in the news, and that's one thing that I think I want to get off my chest about the whole subject is. I understand, Gino and myself and probably every other pro wrestling writer and commenter and person on the internet is defensive about how much we talk about him, but, he's good for business. And that's the point that Jim Ross made about the UFC deal, is that this is very good for business for the UFC. Their pay-per-view numbers have been down. This is going to pique interest. It already has. It is the lead story on, one of their major titles changed hands at the pay-per-view last night, and the lead story on ESPN's front page is Punk. So it's gonna draw some interest. I don't know. Like Punk said in his news conference, the first fight is where the money is. If he goes out there and gets, concussed again in 15 seconds, which is a possibility, people probably aren't going to pay as much to see the second fight. So that's out there. One thing I don't get, though, is that, there's, the community, and I'm not just talking about Cage Side, I'm talking about the world, I guess, seems to be of two minds on this. It's either, he's just in it for the money, he's going to get his ass kicked, he's completely narcissistic and just wants to be in the news all the time, or, he's this... he's us. He's this fanboy who's going to, he's living his dream, and how dare you accuse him of wanting to get paid or whatever. And I don't understand. I don't think that's a either or proposition. I think both of those things are true. And I don't see what's wrong with, Punk or somebody commenting saying, he's going to get paid for this. Is he going to get paid as much as he could have gotten paid by WWE? No. I'm sure UFC, he wanted to do this on the biggest stage possible, really prove himself, and that's the UFC's game. So much like somebody like an Adrian Neville or Sami Zayn or Kenta, now Hideo Itami, if they really want to prove themselves in the biggest pro wrestling stage in the world, all due respect to New Japan, Ring of Honor, those places, that's WWE. That's going to get you the most eyeballs on you. That's going to get you the best competition. If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. Thanks, Frank. And UFC is that for MMA. So that's, Punk is taking probably a bit of a discount to do it in the UFC, but he's not doing it for free. I love writing about pro wrestling and pop culture, and I'm grateful that I've been given an opportunity to do that by Gino and, Cage Side Seats and SB Nation and Box and all of that stuff. But when they offer me money for it, I don't say no. It doesn't, that doesn't mean I don't love it or that I wouldn't do it some anyway. And if they offer to pay me enough that I can quit all my other jobs and just do it full time, I'm not going to say no because that will somehow impede, my ability to have a true passionate voice about what I'm writing about or anything. And I think it's the same thing. Punk's going to get paid. He's probably, I would imagine that he's probably got a deal where he's going to get more on, I guess, do they call it the back end? I think it is. He's going to get a cut of the pay-per-view. He's going to get to, money from his own sponsors, and he's going to get more sponsors than a guy like, Ben Askren or, someone who is just a amateur wrestler or a kickboxer or something would, because he's freaking famous. That's why this is on the front page of ESPN. So he is, And the other thing is, outside of the money, which, like it or not, this is a capitalist society. That's what it's about. That's one of the ways that we show our appreciation for people's work and people's talent, is by paying them. So that's an element of it, and I don't think that's a bad thing to say that he's aware of that and that that's a factor, or that the UFC is, doing a little bit of a sideshow deal here by putting him out there. Maybe he's going to kick ass and be a respectable, end up with a respectable record of like 4-2 in his 6 fights that he ends up having, or something. I think that would be ideal for him and for the UFC if he could be an entertaining fighter who is in competitive matches with the guys that they put him against. That would be awesome. If they could get to somewhere where they could put him in a fight, respectfully against a guy like Michael Bisping, that would be huge money for them, and they would love that. So there's nothing wrong with that. The other piece of that is, if you say that, Punk is a savvy marketer of himself and knows how to keep himself in the limelight, that's true. I mean, I don't think that's his primary motive at all times, but I don't think it's ever far from his mind. I think, throughout his absence from WWE, he has been very smart about making sure that he shows up somewhere. He shows up at a music awards. He shows up on Talking Dead. He shows up on Mark Moran's podcast. He worked around his non-compete to not disappear, and now that the legal issues are taken care of, he is front and center. He is. If you would have told me or anybody else that the week after Sting finally showed up in the WWE ring, that would be like story 14 on everybody's radar, I would have said bullshit. And most people would have too. But it's true. He is. I don't think that was his plan. I don't think he wanted to screw Sting. I think he probably gets a little bit of enjoyment out of fucking with the WWE, but I don't think that's his primary motive either. I think his primary motive is to keep CM Punk at top of mind and top of wallet, and there's nothing wrong with that. So that's that. Ancillary to that, the other thing that I was going to talk about before he signed with the UFC last night is Ryback. A couple things here. One that was probably going to be the primary drive of this podcast, video cast, and now will just be a side point, is I'm tempted to just say fuck that guy because I don't really like him. I don't find him that entertaining in the ring or on the mic. He's occasionally a funny Twitter presence, but I don't. It's not my cuppa, as they say in the jolly old of England. But I won't say that. I mean, I don't know the guy. I think he's going to catch a lot of flack in smart venues. I pity the fool. I mean, I don't know if they. I mean, they will because people will tune in to see it. But he's going to get eaten alive in Chicago the next time WWE's there, and it's probably not going to be terribly pretty in like Philly and New York and those places either. But hey, controversy equals cash, as Eric Bischoff taught us, or said, and took credit for. The thing that I find interesting is that Jericho had one tweet where he said that he didn't think Ryback wasn't dangerous to work with from his perspective. I think that the silence from the locker room on that is telling. I don't think anybody would get in, legal trouble or political trouble. I mean, I think it would actually, to me, I don't understand WWE's backstage politics, but from what I gather as an observer, I don't think sticking up for this guy against this guy who burned his bridges with Vince McMahon and the power brokers at WWE, I don't think that would get you in political hot water to say that, Ryback's my boy and I enjoy working with him. And, I think you could innocuously support Ryback in a way that wouldn't get you any heat on you backstage. So the fact that nobody did that, again, I'm not saying that I think my entirely personal opinion is that the intentionally breaking of Punk's ribs accusation from Art of Wrestling from that podcast is probably an exaggeration. I think Ryback would probably be gone if he was out there intentionally breaking guys that draw. Does he accidentally do it? I mean, that's where I think people should have or would have chimed in and said, no, he's great. I love that guy, if he didn't have a sort of arrogant attitude and, willfully not willfully is the wrong word because I just got done saying I didn't think he does it on purpose, but has an approach that he doesn't improve on the things that Punk accused of him of that make him dangerous. I don't know if that makes sense. So I think that there would have been a chorus of defenses for the guy if there was no merit to Punk's claims. I think Punk probably went overboard because he had an issue with him, but that's my 2 cents on that. Where this ties back into the Punk MMA thing now is if Ryback can stay halfway relevant, keep him upper mid card for the next couple of years, and Punk can get a couple of wins in the UFC and just basically go out there and not make a fool out of himself, even if he loses and just doesn't turtle up and get a TKO called halfway into round 1 and his only fight there or something, which is a whole other topic that I'm kind of worried about this guy's health if he's had as many concussions as he has, and watching him go out there and survive for 3 rounds is probably the wrong message to male America all over the place. But that's I'll talk about that another time or write about it because I think it's interesting. But so keep Ryback relatively strong, stays relatively popular, or and I think Punk did him a huge favor. I mean, he is now a topic when he might not. I mean, he got a big pop when he came back. It was already sort of starting to fizzle out because they didn't know how to book him, and now he is front and center in people's minds again, along with Punk. So keep him prominent for a couple of years. Punk doesn't make a fool out of himself in MMA, and that's like the hottest reality era feud you could possibly have. Then is a Punk returning to the WWE to face Ryback. I mean, that's fucking WrestleMania main event, and who wouldn't want to see that right now? You wouldn't tune in to see how stiff that got and watch Punk cut promos on him on WWE TV? I mean, come on. That, maybe the whole thing was a work. Maybe he and Ryback are really tight. See? It always comes back to that. So, that's what I got. I'm sure there will be more. I apologize to the folks who don't want to hear any more about Punk, but I think you are going to have to continue to. Congratulations to my boy Dave Bautista on the Bond roll. Deal with it.